Now, the most precious time has come, and together, let's show our great reference to our lineage guru, and together we are requesting for the bestowal of Buddha Dharma teaching for the first and only time of Pindolu. First, let's pay homage to the lineage gurus, to the Venerable Mang Liao Ming, to Master Sakya Tsengkong, to the 16th Dharma King Karmapa, and Master Dupten Tarje. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. Homage to the main deity of the ceremony, Amitabha Buddha of the Western Paradise. And homage to the Pindolabharadvaja. Simu, Duten Siddhi Rinpoche, all the Vajra or Dharma masters, Dharma educators, Dharma teachers, Dharma instructors, Dharma assistants, temple directors, all the participants present here and those viewing on the internets, and our guests of honors, many of them are in English. So the Lieutenant Governor of Washington State and Mrs. Owen, and from the Coordination Council for North American Affairs, Ambassador Daniel Liao and Mrs. Judy Liao, and from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Seattle, Director General Mr. Qin Xing, the Mayor of City of Bellevue, the Honorable Conrad Wee, the Mayor of the City of Redmond, the Honorable John Marchioni, the Council Vice Chair of the King County, the Honorable Council Member Jane Hack, and also the Director of International Relations, Dr. Antonio Sanchez, the Chairman of AAT TV, Mr. Cho, and also the Commissioner from the Snohomish County Fire District, Mr. David Chan, the Secretary to the Director General of Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Seattle, Ms. Lily Zhong, Vice President of the Taiwanese Chambers of Commerce of North America, Ms. Kung, the Commissioner, Ms. Chen, and also the Advisor, Mr. Sun, the Advisor, Ms. Che, another Advisor, Mr. Tao, and from the Taiwan Overseas Credit Warranty Fund, the Chief Director's wife, Mrs. Vivian Sit, Communication Director of Fairchild Television, Mr. Ye and Mrs. Ye, the President of the Seattle Kaohsiung Sister City Association, Ms. Weeks, Julie Weeks, and the Treasurer, Mr. Alan Weeks, and from Bank of America Wealth Management Merrill Lynch, the Senior Vice President, Ms. Cora Chen, the Financial Advisor, Ms. Eileen Xie, and from the Chinese Arts and Music Association, Music Director, Mr. Warren Chang and Ms. Pu Yin Zhao, and the President of Greenland Incorporation, Mr. Chris Don, and from Sunny's Production, Mr. Sunny Yam, and from Sheng-Yen Lu Foundation, the President, Dr. Fo Qing Lu, the Treasurer, Mr. Fo Chi Lu, and the Directors, and also the professional photographer from England, Mr. Tony Chow, and Dr. Zhu, Dr. Emmeline Chu, Mr. Greg Wong, Dr. Ryan Zhuang, and this one, Miss Chi, Dr. Zhang, Dr. Zhou, Dr. Lin, Miss Fiona Dong, Miss Yang Tang, Mr. Jackson Lu, Miss Catherine Lu, Miss Sally Tan, from Taiwan Academia Sinica, Professor Zhu and Mrs. Zhu, and the Director of the Public Relations of Taiwan Lijiang Temple, Mr. Fermi Wang, the producer for CTI TV in Taiwan, Ms. Rebecca Su, attorney to the Buddha Foundation, Mr. Low and Ms. Ng. And from Taiwan, Tainan City Democratic Party Director, Mr. Tsai. And then those who send flower bouquet from the mayor of the Nantou County in Taiwan. How do I pronounce it? It's not clearly written here. Mayor Chen, the council persons from Nantou County, and also from the KMT party, from a legislator, Tsai, and also the former DPP party, and also council members from Hualien, from Tainan City, and the Chief Secretary of Taiwan government, from Taichung, and also from Caotun City. And there are a few others that's in English that I will not reiterate here. So, all in all, good afternoon. How are you? How do you do? All is well. So, reading from the list, my head's getting bigger. I don't know what to say. But today, for the Bardo deliverance ceremony, we recited Amitabha Buddha for the Bardo spirits, so that they are guided to the pure Buddha lands. So that went really well. And we don't need to introduce Amitabha Buddha because everybody is already reciting Amitabha Buddha, whether you have faith or not. So I don't know whether those who gave a speech earlier have faith in Amitabha Buddha, but in any case they recited or they said Amitabha as a greeting. Because Buddhists, when they greet each other, they would always say Amitabha. They may not know the meaning, but other people may not know the meaning of saying that. But maybe it sounds like that you would have, it sounded a little bit like eating bun in Chinese. So by reciting Amitabha, you would have food to eat and places to sleep and would be well clothed. So if you do that, in the future you would also be guided by Amitabha Buddha to the Western paradise, then all would be well. And today, we will be transmitting the Buddha Dharma teaching of Pindola. And his image or his look would be very bony, and you would be able to see his ribs. So let me share the origin of Pindolu. So Pindolu is the first of the 16 arhats, and now he is residing in the Tiantu Mount Moni mountain. And you need, by reciting his name in full, then he would come, Pindola of the Mount Moni of Tiantu. Because his name, Moni, with Moni like Sakyamuni. So with the decree of Sakyamuni Buddha, by calling on his name, he would come, he would descend. So by reciting his name or his epithet, he would come. So there are empty seats here in the front. How come you don't prepare a seat for Pindolu? Then he could just choose any seat here and sit. And there are also seats here, right? So here in the master's seat, I would like to invite him to take a seat here, to let him sit. So he would always have the head seat, the most important seat. So his origin, so he was a king in the ancient India, in the Chakrasarvam. So he was called the King Chakrasarvam. And he was the minister of this king, Pindola. So Pindolu was the minister of this country. So it's almost like a prime minister. So I was very clear about his origin. Because what the king did may not all right. So if he made a mistake, Pindolu would point it out to him. And on the court, on the imperial court, he would mention directly to the king. And of course, the king would not be happy about that. Because when you made the mistake, mostly you don't want other people to know. But Pindolu every time would point it out. So in the world, it's not good to make sense. Why? Let's share a joke first. If you want to talk rationally with your girlfriend, then you're about to break up. If you want to talk rationally with your wife, then you want to go hungry. And then if you talk rationally with your colleague, then you cannot live on. If you talk rationally with your boss, then you don't want to continue to work. And if you talk rationally with your neighbor, if the neighbor doesn't move, then you would have to move. If you talk rationally with your friend, then you would lose that friend. If you talk rationally with your teacher, then the teacher would give you a score of 0. If you talk With the society, you're almost gone. If you talk rational with your lover, then you don't want to live on. So that's the reason, that's the problem. Because Pindolu always speak the truth to the king. So the king, of course, was not happy about it. You were always so upright and spoke the truth, and the king got angry and commanded him to become a monk and to kick him out. And he had no place to go and became a monk. And then he met Sakyamuni Buddha and became a monk. So that's the result of the mistake of speaking rationally. So in this world, there is no place to talk rationally to anyone. You always have ill fortune if you talk that way. To speak very rationally. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the reality. If you talk that way to your wife, then she would not cook for you anymore. So the wife is always right, no matter what. So I cannot mention about myself. It must be about other people. So let me teach you a way. When your wife talk about the reasons or rational with you, you cannot say anything other than yes, yes, yes. And you distance yourself gradually, and because there is no reasons to talk about. You cannot reason with all these people. So why is Pindolu still living in this world? I went to Mount Lingju, the Mount Javatana. The cave of Ananda was above me. So the cave that I stayed that was under the cave of Ananda, and the cave next to me was Pindola. Pindola was staying in the cave next to mine. So Pindola and I were brothers. Pindola and I were Aniki. Were brothers in Japanese. We got along really well, but he did not get along very well with Maudyagalana. But Sariputra and Pindola got along really well. Mahakashyapa did not get along well with Ananda. So why Mahakashyapa left the Sangha? That was because of Ananda. And why did Pindola not get along with Maudyagalana? Because Pindolo had greater supernatural powers. And Pindola are not really happy, but he got along really well with me. Why? Because I was very amiable. I get along with everyone. So that's why I got along well with Pindola, with Ananda. It got along even better with Maudyagalana. So we were all together then. Why Ananda and Mahakashyapa did not get along? because Ananda liked to go alms begging to the rich people, and he got really fat, like Reverend Victor Lai or Sheng-Yen, and walking along carrying a big fat belly. But Mahakashyapa was about like Pindola, very skinny and dry. And he went alms begging to the poor families. So that's why he was very skinny. But Ananda was very fat. So the two of them often like that. And he said Ananda was the big pig, big fat pig. And Ananda pointed to Mahakashyapa that he was the skinny bones. So externally they don't get along with each other, but internally they all train in Buddhism. So of course among the close disciples of Buddha, they have all this characteristic, and some don't get along, of course, that's normal. But they were very diligent in their cultivation anyway. So Pindola, at that time, in the deviant, the cults, there were the 6 big cults, and one of them that was like the eldest son of a very rich family, Sudhijaka. So this 6 cult group, they were all shamans, they were all like monks. So, and the disciples of Buddha Sakyamuni were also monks. So it didn't mean that the cult groups were like the movies, that they would wear all those weapons or with horns, or and that they would be rag and all that. No, but they were also cultivators, but what they practice are not the right ones. And they were also like monks, ordained. And there was a senior of one of the cult group. And he used a tandang wood to carve the alms bowls. So bowls for alms begging for the monks, the members of the Sangha. And one of the senior of this cult is called the Sudhika. So he carved these alms bowls and offered it to the monk of this cult group. And one of them was very beautiful. And he took that bowl to test. The followers of Sakyamuni Buddha, and you said that all of you have this supernatural power, so let me place this bowl. So you pronounce it bowl, like this, on the ceiling, and hang it there. And he said, so Sakyamuni Buddha or his followers, is there anyone that would be able to take down this most precious bowl, and then I would give you this bowl. So now, if I say that I would place this precious bowl on the ceiling near the lights, say if many of the true Buddha disciples have this supernatural or transcendental power, and then you flew and then got that thing, and to check whether you have that power or not. He was testing. So at that time, Sakyamuni Buddha and all of his disciples did not move, did not do anything. But Pindola talked to Mahamaudagalana, you have the supernatural power of flying or running really fast. Could you get the bowl? But Maudaglalana said no, because Sakyamuni Buddha had the precept to forbid that. But Pindolu thought, yes, Sakyamuni Buddha had the precept, but we cannot just lose like that. We have to show them. So if Mahamaudagalana did not want to do it, then it was only me that could do it, because Pindola also had that supernatural power. So he just slapped on his chair, and he flew to that light and took the bowl lightly, and he flew around and very cool and returned to his seat. Look, I could take it down very easily. So Sakyamuni Buddha's disciples all have supernatural powers, but he took it down. So at that time, after he took it down, the Buddha spoke. Pindola, now you violated, you made two grave mistakes. So Sakyamuni Buddha reprimanded Pindola, you made two grave mistakes. Now Sakyamuni Buddha wanted to reason with you. You made two mistakes. Now what can you say? The first mistake was that the alms bowl made of this tandan wood belongs to the cult groups, and you cannot take anything that belongs to the cult groups. If you do, then you violated the precept. That's the first mistake. The second mistake, you had made the vows in front of the Buddha as a monk, that in front of your senior that conferred the vows to you, you showed your transcendental or supernatural power. According to the teachings of the Buddha, if you never made the vows, if you have not entered the Sangha, then you showed your supernatural power, that's okay. But now you have, so you violated the precept. So Pindola wanted to reason. He wanted to open his mouth. I had my reasons. Because our Buddhist group could not lose or could not be ridiculed by the cults group. So he wanted to reason. So the Buddha said, I only mentioned my reasons to you, but you cannot reason with me. You cannot reason with me. So now you have to leave me. So I have to send you away. Like in the imperial China, if there is officials that breach the mistake or made the mistake, that they would be sent away to, say, Hainan Island, to the remote places to suffer. Like the Hainan Island was very hot and there was an epidemic there. So Pindola was sent away to there were the 4 continents of one of the continents. The continents of the north, east, west, and south. So there were 4 continents on earth. So he was sent away to the western continent of Xinyu. And where is that? Maybe it's America, the west continent, because this is the western countries. So of course not. But he was sent away to the very remote and barbaric place. So what for? So he had to salvage sentient beings there. He could not to spread the Buddha Dharma. So he was punished for several years, for many years. And then Sariputra and all the great arhats plead to Buddha Sakyamuni. We haven't seen Pindola for so long. Could you please let him return? And Sakyamuni Buddha finally was compassionate. And after so many years, he has not seen this disciple, and many other great arhats have not met him. So finally, they asked him to come back, to return to the site of Sakyamuni Buddha. But the Buddha still punished him, even with this slight mistake. So what was the punishment? That in the future, that we all would have been gone, left the Saha world not to be reincarnated again, but you have to stay in the Saha world forever. He was the head of the 16 arhats. But in the future, you and the 16 arhats would have to stay in the Mount Moni of Tiantu, or the heavenly realm. So that's the reason why Pindola still stays in the Saha world. And this is something that no one else could ever tell. It was never mentioned in the sutras. So at that time, when the Buddha was alive, there were many monks who had the attainment of arhatship. That's why it was mentioned there were 500 arhats, but it's not like exactly 500, because 500 in the sutras meant a lot, many. So many arhats came from that time. So Pindola was a great match with me. He was my brother. So when I visited the Todaiji in Nara, there was a place with lots of deer, like a deer park in Nara, Todaiji, and we saw the Pindola was sitting outside the main gate of Todaiji, to the right of the main gate. He was sitting there, and when I visited, and he happened to be sitting there. Sometimes he may not be present in his statue, but at that time he was there. And when he saw me, Whoa, his two eyes was radiating, very bright. You know, in the past when we greet each other, we did not shake hands. We did not salute. Between our hearts, we did not do this. We did not salute. And not to Sakyamuni Buddha. We just smiled or just emit light in our eyes. So when you see each other, we emit a very bright light toward each other. So when I saw that, there were many people around me, and then I told them, so if you have headache, just rub his head. If you have ulcer or tummy ache, you just touch the corresponding parts of the statue, and then you would be cured. As long as he is present in his statue and you rub the statue, that would be the right time. So the attorney, Mr. Low, he had been suffering for ulcer for many, many years. So he climbed to the statue and touched his ulcer because he had an ulcer problem. And after that, all of a sudden he thought, oh, I felt better. As if it's cured. And from then on until now, he's completely cured. Right? Mr. Low? He said, yes. Right? So he's cured now. In the past, he couldn't even take a little piece of pineapple, and now he could eat the whole pineapple without any problem. You know, pineapple is really bad to the ulcer. In the past, he couldn't even eat a slice of it, but now he could eat the whole pineapple as big as a head. So his ulcer had been completely cured. So by touching the body parts of Pindolu, if you have any problem, then he would be cured. You would be cured. So if you have athlete's feet, you would touch his feet. Or headache, adama itai in Japanese, then you would touch his head. Of ache or pain in the foot, then you would be cured. So that's why we call him the field of blessings. Number one, the greatest blessings field. So he is truly saintly. So he lives in the Mount Moni of Tiantu. And by calling his name and his place of Mount Moni, he would come. And he would help you for whatever you ask for. If you want marriage, for wealth, for pains and sickness, so whatever you pray for, he would help you. For eradication of disasters or calamities, increasing good fortune, increasing wisdom, for love, harmony, for the eliminating enemies and ill feelings. That's why Pindolu was also called ones with the greatest fortune. So at the Rainbow Temple, we also have a statue of Pindola. And tomorrow, we would also invite Pindola that tomorrow that he would come and descend upon the Pindola statue. So the Pindolu deity would descend upon the Pindola statue, that tomorrow whoever that touch your statue would gain the response that any sicknesses would be cured. That at the time of Sakyamuni Buddha, that Sakyamuni Buddha under the Bodhi tree, or actually from the beginning, when Sakyamuni Buddha escaped from his home, left home, he left the palace. He didn't even tell his wife or all his wives, his queens and concubines or consorts. He left them all and became a monk. And eventually, under the Bodhi tree, he sat in meditation. And he also practiced asceticism for 6 years and did not gain enlightenment. But later, he sat under the Bodhi tree, and finally he gained enlightenment. And after his enlightenment, first he went to the deer park to deliver the 5 monks. And these 5 monks were the King Suddhodana's ministers, because Sakyamuni Buddha, when Sakyamuni Buddha left the palace, his father, the king, sent these 5 ministers to find Sakyamuni Buddha and to bring Sakyamuni Buddha back. But instead, they become Sakyamuni Buddha's followers and became monks. And because Sakyamuni Buddha, after leaving the asceticism practice, they thought that Sakyamuni Buddha had become deviant, so they left Sakyamuni Buddha and they started practicing on their own in the deer park. And Sakyamuni Buddha went to the deer park to deliver these 5 people. So this is the first time Sakyamuni Buddha turned the Dharma wheel to deliver these 5 monks. So it's the same as that place in Nara, felt like a deer park. There were many deer there. So the first time Sakyamuni Buddha turned the Dharma wheel is to comprehend, to see clearly the world, see the world clearly. But first let me share a joke. The wife asked the husband that before marriage you always call me angels. And then the husband said yes. And then the wife asked, but now why don't you call me angels anymore? And then the husband said, but honey, you should be happy, because now my head is clear and cool. Now I'm back to normal. So I like to tell you that our mind is often unclear. You're not clear about the world, about the human world. Of course that's abnormal. Well, actually that's normal if you're unclear about the world. And Buddha Dharma is teaching you to be clear about the world. And that's the first turn of the Buddha Dharma wheel. That the world is suffering. You need to know about suffering, and you need to know to cut off the suffering. And then you need to have realization, and then you have to practice the way. So that's what the Buddha taught the 5 monks about the 4 noble truths. This is the first turn of the Dharma wheel, of the 3 turns. So what is suffering? Yesterday, Friday afternoon, there were many people that came for spiritual consultations with lots of pains and sicknesses, tumors and cancers, all kinds of sicknesses, and sometimes from head to toes. And they couldn't walk. They came in wheelchair, and some was carried in, some with the arteriosclerosis and all kinds of problems. Actually, pains and sicknesses are the most suffering, and also old age is also suffering. When you're young, you don't feel it. But when the time comes, you would know. When we were young, we jump and run, very lively. And I thought, Mom, how come you're so slow? And my mom always said, you would know when you're my age. Why? Are you always forgetful? And my mom also said, when you're my age, you would know. And how come you forget about what you agreed yesterday? And she said, you would know when you're my age. How come you don't cook today, Mom? Instead you go to the doctor. Because we didn't know that she was sick. And then she said, you would know when you're my age. You would know when you're that age. That old age is suffering, sickness is suffering, and death, prior to death, that's even more suffering. So Simu and I have signed a statement, and also like to announce now, when we are sick, and then when we have to use the medical machineries to help, no, we don't want to use all the medical equipments and all kinds of medical equipments to extend your life. We don't want any of that, because Grandmaster is living Buddha. When it's time for us to go, we would just go. We don't need to rely on those medical equipments. So we could just have a few final breaths and then we go. We don't want to sustain that for a few months or a few years. Then we would spend all of our wealth because of this sickness in order to prolong our life. So definitely we don't want to be cut open and to use all those medical equipments to extend our life. So we just want to be natural and could also go naturally. That's what human life is all about. It's no big deal. And human life is full of suffering. To be rich is also suffering. Do you know? Because the rich have to be taxed too. That the fruit of your hard works have to be cut half. And you would feel really bad, but still you have to pay your taxes. But if you regard the tax as that you are actually giving to this greatest a charitable organization, which is the US government, then you would feel fine. Otherwise, you may not have a good night's sleep. So that's fine. For spiritual cultivators, we don't worry about our belongings or wealth. So you should know that whether you're rich or poor, you suffer. But the sufferings of the poor is worse than of the rich. Money is not omniscient. It doesn't cure everything. But without money, there's nothing you can do. So that's a big difference. So it's even more miserable not to have money. But having money can also be miserable. So when you have money, your love affairs would be very sweet. Don't you know that song? So even the sweet love affairs could become very bitter. So you should know about these sufferings, that there's more suffering than pleasure in this earth. So you need to know to cut off all these sufferings. And how? You need to train, you need to cultivate spiritually. You don't want to fall into the lower three realms. So you need to practice the Tao, to cultivate spiritually. And then you can be free from the reincarnation. So Pindola was a great arhat, is a great arhat. There are two kinds of arhats. One is arhats with remains and the other one is without. So if suffering is the illness, the accumulation of the suffering is the cause for the illness. And the eradication is the doctor, and the path is the medicine. So the eradication of the sicknesses is the attainment. So in this practice, the most important thing is to abide by the precepts. So happiness can also become misery. So Sheng-Yen knew a girl through the internet, and they became good friends, and they made a date to meet. And went to the motel. So Sheng-Yen went to the motel together with this girl. And after it was done, Sheng-Yen smoked and said, "I'm a designer and my monthly salary is 200,000 NT dollars. That's really good." And this girl friend said, "What a coincidence, I'm also a designer. And sometimes in one day I would earn 200,000 NT dollars. And Sheng-Yen was really surprised. How could it happen? A day? What did you design? What do you design? And the girl said, "Huh? I design I missed that, sorry. And at that time, someone knocked on the door. So, can't you see that the happiness becomes suffering? How come nobody's reacting? You think you're happy? Then in a moment, it's suffering. So suffering is a kind of illness, and the reason for the illness is the accumulation of the suffering. That's why we have to cultivate spiritually, we have to take the medicine. And then, when you're cured, then you would have attainment. So you have to abide by the precepts of the monks, of the nuns. So Abhidharma, all the precepts in the Abhidharma, and the precepts for the novice monks, novice nuns, the monks, nuns, and also for the lay practitioners, bhikshus, bhikshunis. So one of them, in order to attain arhatships, you cannot practice among people. You have to go into a remote and quiet place. Because by staying in a crowded place, then you would be contaminated. And most importantly, in order to attain the great arhatship, you have to have a complete renunciation, mind of renunciation. And if you have a great renunciation mind, you would attain arhatship. They're totally free from the mundane. They abandon the mundane or the secular life and went deep into the mountains to cultivate spiritually. At the time of Sakyamuni Buddha, we all lived in the caves. There was a precept that you could not live in a nice place. You have to live in the caves, deep in the mountains. You don't live in the cities. So this is one of the precepts of residence. Because if you live in the cities, it's easy to be contaminated. That's why I often said that the world is like a big pickling pot. Like Korea is a big pickling pot because they love to make kimchi, the Korean pickles. They use the big pot and they throw all kinds of vegetables into it. And they add spices, yellow, red, chilies, seasonings, soy sauce, mix them all together. And when they come out, they all taste the same. So the society is this big pickling pot. If you're close to the society, it's impossible for you to have attainment, this attainment. So this is the precept of the residence limitation. The key point here is to be far from the contaminants or pollutants, to be pure. And in the spiritual cultivation, the key point is in the stopping. You stop your mind. Is to stop, to cut off, to stop the mind so that it is unmoved, and so that you don't have any more thoughts, to stop. And the best way is to perform the visualization of impurity, impurity. Let me share a joke first. There was someone like a peddler, someone that sells the tickets second-hand. And there was a gentleman that wanted to buy the tickets outside the ticket office. And then, do you want to buy some tickets? And then the gentleman said, I'm a policeman. And then the gentleman said, oh. So he thought the policeman also wanted to buy the ticket, but actually not. So that's how the society is. It could easily pollute people. So you need to perform this visualization that a lot of things is impure. It's not pure. That most people would have impure thoughts. Even those who have Buddha Dharma as their career. Is it called under the table? That it's like a bribery under the table, not to let others know. That is impure. But you cannot reason with them. In some countries, when you get there, you have to give some money in your passport. And through the immigration, when they open your passport, the money, like they are playing magic, the money would fall into their pockets, and then they would let you in with the conch, with the seal. But if there's no money inside your passport, and he opened your passport and no money, then he would start finding problem, and he would start turning the pages of the passport one by one, giving you troubles, asking you to go to the side and to be searched, all kinds of problems. But some countries are better than others. Some countries are quite bad. So those are impurities of the society. So you have to practice the stopping, perform the visualization of impurities. Like when you're dead, that's impurity. So when the granddad and grandma died, or now when they're alive, you keep calling them, but when they die, the kids are afraid of them because the face or the look of death are quite bad. Then they would be swollen and the body would turn color. And then if you keep the corpses, then they would start to rot and to become foul. And there were dirty stuff coming out, and then the whole body would deteriorate it. So they would not be beautiful anymore. So if you look at a girl and you think she's beautiful and keep kissing and hugging them, maybe thousands of times, at my room, I had 9 skulls or 9 kapalas, skull cups. Every time I get home, my pillows are near the 9 kapalas, and I would tell them I would take a 20-minute nap. Please wake me when the time comes. And I lay down, and then, sure enough, 20 minutes later, I would open my eyes. Oops. Interesting. The 9 kapalas would wake me up. So like when I think I want to nap for 15 minutes, not 1 minute less, 1 minute more. And then I lay down, and 15 minutes later, I would wake up. So I have that skill. So I have seen a lot of this visualization. So the kapalas, who offered me those? If you're here, please raise your hand. You're the one that gave me many of them, and they were all carved, about 9 of them, carved beautifully. And he's here, so I never lie. So those kapalas were placed near my pillow, and I look at them every day, and after I die, I would be like that too. But they wake me up at the right time. So if however many minutes I want. So that's why I had attainment in this visualization of impurities. At my bed, around my bed, are things about death. Is to practice the purities and abandoning the impurities. How long had I spoke? 50 minutes. Oh no. And the impurities of the seeds. Do you know where does a human being come from? He or she is from the worms. You don't believe it? It's a long sperm and a round egg together. Then you're the 2 worms. You don't think you're a worm? You were a worm. You are a worm. And you're afraid of the worms? You were even smaller than them. And a human being came from these worms. So those are impurities. And the place of your residence also unclean, right? Especially in Taiwan, it's very dusty. If you don't sweep or you don't clean for a few days, it would be dirt all over the place. And also you look, you think you're clean and pure. Actually, you have the eye, the mucus like from the eyes. You would know when you grow. Or the mucus from the nose. So that's why sometimes you have sinus problem. Also in the ears. Or your saliva may not necessarily be clean. Inside the body it's clean, but when you spit it out, in a few minutes they became bad. So not only your look or your face, but your whole body is also unclean or impure. Your excrement, Your urine, your organs, even the sweat, the urine, they're all unclean, impure. The whole body is filled with toxins. So even the top or the bottom. So what do you eat? Even what you eat is also unclean. So there are lots of contaminated food these days. The dust also unclean. Nothing is clean. So this is spiritual practice through the visualization of uncleanliness or impurities. So you need to train in impermanence. We all know about this impermanence. So Bob went for an interview for a job, and he was asked, what are you skilled at? And he said, at creating commotion. And the boss didn't believe it, show it. And then he said, of course. And he told all the other interviewees, you all now can go home because I got the job. So that's creating commotion. But what kind of commotion? Is unclean commotion. Nobody created clean commotion. They all created the unclean commotion. But the Lotus Light Charitable Society is clean. They don't make commotion about it. The one that publicized is unclean. And Sheng-Yen Lu Foundation also do the clean works. And we never publicize. And things that's broadcasted in the news is because they pay money. They're in the news because they get money. But even we have done so much charitable work, they don't broadcast it. So there are a lot of media that are unclean. So impermanence, suffering, emptiness, no self, and also the causes, conditions, purities. For each of this point, we have to talk for over an hour, so we will skip it. So with the 12, there are so many of them that's impossible to cover. For what to wear, we have to wear something, rags that have been thrown out by others. So in order to attain great hardships, we wear clothes that were already discarded by others. So you cut pieces and created your own garment from the leftover. So there are three kinds. One is the thin one inside, and then the thicker one outside, and then also the precept robe. Actually, they don't have the precept robe, but they have the 3 layers of robes always. But for the people these days that wear that, it's not qualified because you have to wear leftover second-hand cloth and then made or cut and made your own robe. And one more that could be used in India or Thailand, but not here in American, is that you go for alms begging for your food. that you don't cook for yourself, and you only eat whatever is given to you. And another thing is you don't have food past noon. So even if you're really hungry, you can drink milk or some other liquid. And you don't sit while you eat. You kneel. So you kneel or you stand. You cannot sit on comfortably. You cannot eat too much. If someone gives you a lot of food and you eat them all, that's not allowed. And you visualize the liquid food to become urine and the solid food to become feces, to become excrement or rocks. You have to visualize whatever that's in the bowl before you eat. That inside the bowl is only urine and excrements or rocks. So you cannot eat something tasty. Of course, what's given to you maybe is very delicious, but you visualize it to be bad. And number 7, the place you live should be in the temple. In a temple with an altar. And number 8, the only place you can sit is in a cemetery or under a tree, a big tree, or under the sun. So under the big tree, under the sun, in a cemetery, or on the ground, near the river, on the riverbank, and you cannot sleep lying down. You have to sleep in a sitting position, because when you lay down, you would have dreams, and the dreams could pollute you, contaminate you. So that's how you do your spiritual cultivation. You think you can see at the girls? No. You can only look down. When there's a girl talking to you, they could only say 3 statements, and with a distance where you can hear but not too close. That she would stand over there and not right here, and you cannot see her face when talking. The eyes could not see the ladies, you know, because the eyes of ladies would electrify you, and then you would be dizzy, and then you would be hypnotized and follow them. So you cannot take a direct look at the ladies, you cannot shake their hands, and you have to maintain a certain distance and could not speak more than 3 statements. So there are lots of rules to practice arhatships. It's very difficult to practice. And finally, you would become pure and you could enter into meditation. And in your brain, there's no more running thoughts. And you would be always seated, never lying down, no thoughts appearing. And you're apart from the secular world, and you don't talk to the ladies, and you maintain a certain distance. You cannot talk more than 3 statements, and you cannot take a direct look at the ladies. So could you do it? No? And you can't even attain arhatships. How could you attain bodhisattvahood or even Buddhahood? How could it be possible? So the attainments, there are 3 kinds. First, is that you would never fall to the 3 lower realms. And the second, once returner, you're not completely pure. You have rise to the heavenly realm, but you have to be reborn once, and then you would have the attainment. And the next one is the non-returner. You would enter into the heavenly realms as an arhat, the non-returning heavens. And then the greatest one is the arhatships with no reincarnation, no more rebirths, not in the 3 heavenly realms of desire, form, and no form. Beyond that. So the practice with the mudra, the Vajra mudra, that was the mantra for Pindola. That was his mantra. Recite his mantra in your Pindola Dharma practice. The meaning is taking refuge in the fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha and all the Sangha and saints, and that all impurities, all contaminants will become pure and have attainment. And the world is impure, and finally, would become impure by practicing the Pindola Dharma practice. That in the deer park, finally, this was established. This is the poem that Grandmaster wrote. The most important thing is the first turn of the Dharma wheel at the deer park is to practice the arhatship, to be free from the bondage of the rebirth. And the precepts, the ethical disciplines, is never to harm others. Never to harm others. If you inflicted harm to others, you have to suffer from the retributions. You cannot harm any other single being, including your enemies or adversaries. I have said this before, you cannot reason in this world. Don't think that you have an enemy. That must have been causes and conditions. So in spiritual cultivation, you cannot set up an enemy, cannot create enemies. The point is you cannot harm any other people. So you cannot lie. And through your eyes or hearing or the speech, so if you made a statement that is untrue, then you have harmed that person. And if you touch someone or hit someone and harm someone, that you harm someone, or verbally, writtenly, in action, or in thoughts, you cannot harm others. So if what you do is never harm others, then you would be qualified to practice arhatships. And arhatship is the basics, is the first turn of and the first basic teaching of Sakyamuni Buddha. If you cannot even do this, then you're not qualified to become spiritual cultivator. some spiritual cultivators were very happy to harm others. So they're not even qualified to become an arhat. A wife standing in front of a mirror trying out a new clothes and then asked the husband, "Is it good? Does it look good?" And the husband took down the newspaper, took a look and didn't say anything. And the wife said, "Mark Twain once said, a word of praise would let me live on for another 2 months. Why can't you praise me?" And the husband said, "Well, how long do you want to live?" See, when you meet your karmic debtor, you would marry him or her. That's how a couple is sometimes. They would hurt each other, harm each other, verbally, even verbally, that would be also a harm. Then you're not qualified to even practice the arhatship. You should never reason with ladies, with women, because whatever they say is always right. So when they reason with you, you should just avoid them. So mom said, "Xiaoming, so did you find this money?" "No, just once." "Then how come you have 10 of them?" "Well, I actually found a $100 bill and then changed it into 10 $10 bills. Even kids lie. So they harm their own conscience. Because by picking them 10 times, he would get praised 10 times. A told B that his girlfriend had a bad temper and they fight all the time. "What should I do?" And then B said, "That woman always have some thorns, so you cannot just cut off all the thorns. You should adapt." And then he said, "How can I adapt if they have thorns all over?" And then B asked, "Does it exist? Haven't ever you seen durian? Durian have thorns all over." But if you practice to be like a durian with thorns all over, then you would not attain arhatship. A few people discussing Su Tongpo. A said, "I like Tongpo's poems," and someone said, "I like Tongpo's painting." And then C said, "I also like what? I like to eat Tongpo's meat." That's a kind of dish. The Westerners would not understand this joke. So actually, I said the foreigners would not understand. Actually, I should say the locals don't understand, because this is America. The Chinese are the foreigners. So we are the foreigners. Because this is America. The Caucasians are locals. We are the foreigners. Right? So we have to talk rationally. Very simple reason, but nobody knows. So today, Pindolu is sitting in front of me. I would like to tell you tomorrow everyone goes to Rainbow Temple and would rub or touch all over your body, and please sit quietly and to let them touch you. It's not to give you a massage, but you have to agree, Grandmaster Lu, that anyone that touch you on that body part, that they would be cured, that their ailments would be alleviated, because you're number one in your blessing fields, and Grandmaster Lu is the second in blessing fields, and Grandmaster Lu cannot be rubbed all over, but you're okay. It's not okay for Grandmaster to be touched all over. So I hope that you could stay until the end, that you will not run when you're being rubbed all over. Please sit quietly and let yourself be touched. So in his Dharma practice, the mudra is the Vajra clasp. This represents a lot. So the mudra is this, the Vajra mudra. So Pindolu, the Venerable Pindolu is my brother. You have to agree. You have to accept my request. But if you don't, I cannot harm you and you cannot harm me. Because at that time, we all attained arhatships. We were great arhats. And the most important thing is never harm any other. So today, amiably, in great peace, I would like to beg of you that nobody, even when anybody touch you, any place, even when you're ticklish, like touching the sole of your feet, you still should not run away, please. Oh, Mani Ben home.